Thank you so much. Tonight we are joined by 6 of our board members, our superintendent of schools, Dr. Timothy Harney, our assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, our interim assistant superintendent for finance and operations, Mr. Luis Frontero, our Ingram and Smith district legal counsel, Mr. Edward McCarthy, our district clerk, Ms. Suzanne Benetti, and our great student rep, Ms. Haley Hendershot at the end. As always, there are 2 opportunities for the community to participate during the Board of Ed meeting. The first is just before the board takes up its agenda, and the second follows the disposition of all agenda items. As always, if you'd like to speak, we ask that you come to the podium. You must be a resident of the Bayport Blue Point School District, or any other person that would like to speak must be voted on by a majority vote. We ask you to keep that conversation to approximately 3 minutes. And as always, in the back, you can see we live stream and post to board docs, and you can follow the school district at BBP School District. But at this time, before we hand it over to Dr. Harney, we'll open it up to anybody in the community who'd like to bring before the board any new or old business. Not hearing any, we'll turn it over to Dr. Harney to discuss our big night celebrating our New York State champion over here, and also all of our music, acknowledge all of our music individuals tonight. So thank you so much for being here. We do appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. First of all, welcome to everyone here tonight, and congratulations to everyone who is being honored here. We're looking forward to celebrating you in a little bit. I just have a couple of quick announcements, and then I'll turn it over to Ms. Hendershot, who will kind of give you the updates on all the buildings and everything. And this is more, you'll hear me speak about it a little bit more when I do the budget presentation, but each time that I do my talk here with you or giving you my update here is one of the things I continuously talk about is the foundation aid. So nothing in terms of coming from the state has changed as of yet. If you heard last time, I had said that we had received the executive budget, which is the budget the governor puts out, and that's usually the 3rd Tuesday of January. So that had taken place, which I'll go a little bit more into in the budget. Since then, the legislators have created their budget. But now it's a discussion of where they negotiate going back and forth. So currently right now, nothing has changed in foundation aid. There are a couple of things within the budget or the executive budget that are still being discussed. You may have heard or probably you've read in the paper where they're talking about free meals for everybody. So that is something that we're waiting to get more information on. And then obviously the other thing that you've probably have heard is about cell phones and devices. So that will be a constant conversation, but we won't have those details probably until the budget is adopted by the governor, which is supposed to be April 1st, but I'm not really sure. Sometimes it happens a little bit after that. So that's kind of really what we're waiting on. So what we're giving you tonight is everything that we know to date. And then just a couple of other things real quick. Just a reminder, the library vote is coming up. That's on April 8th, just so that people are aware. And then I know Haley will talk about the concerts and everything that we have coming up. So my last thing is last night I was at an event that Scope sponsored where we were able to acknowledge 3 of our staff members for things that they're doing within the building. Mr. Bortsfield, who is our Director of Facilities, Mr. Jeff LaFleur, who works with him, and then Carol Sampson, who works over at Academy. So I'd like to just congratulate them and acknowledge them, if we can give them a round of applause. All right, and with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Hendershot.
Thank you. So a quick summary of everything that has happened in our school this past week. Last Friday was World Down Syndrome Day, and at Academy Street, we had James Higgins, a sibling of teacher Mrs. Defabaugh, as a Down Syndrome ambassador at our Rock Your Socks assembly. He shared with students all the things he loves to do and how he works hard at his job, and he did a little karaoke as well. Also, Friday evening was Academy's Got Talent show. It was a wonderful event filled with so many talented performances. We are proud of our students for bravely putting themselves out there. Lastly, this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. is our next family book talk for the book The Anxious Generation. We'd love to see you join us on the Google Meet. At BPE, Night on the Red Carpet was a huge success. Students were excited to show off their writing projects to families and were even more excited when their favorite books won an award. We also celebrated our first Rock Your Socks student ambassador this month. Elizabeth Catalano did an outstanding job on her poster about Down syndrome. We are so proud of her. Last week, Sylvan 5th graders had an exciting opportunity to connect with our high school's Peers Educating Peers group. Our 5th graders visited the high school wellness center and participated in group activities organized by the PEP members. The activities encourage students to celebrate each other's unique qualities and create meaningful connections. Continuing with our core values centered around kindness, last week a group of 8th grade students also visited the high school to partner with PEP students in leading activities for 5th grade students. Individuals played games and led small group activities, helping to foster kindness and leadership in our elementary schools. Additionally, during their advisory period, students participated in an activity led by high school students enrolled in positive psychology, where they shared acts of kindness, big and small, that they had performed or experienced. Their acts will be combined to create a kindness wall in our cafeteria to remind us all of the impact small acts can have. Finally, the Bayport Blue Point High School Counseling Center hosted the annual Spring College Fair today during periods 1 and 2. With over 90 colleges, universities, trade schools, and military branches in attendance for 10th and 11th grade students. The high school spring concert will be held on March 27th at 8 p.m. in the high school auditorium, showcasing our students' musical talents. On March 28th, the CB's Performing Arts Showcase fundraiser will take place at 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium to support the arts programs. Lastly, spring sports are underway, and the community is excited to support our student athletes by attending their games.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hendershot. But at this time, we will turn it over to Mr. Haas and Mr. Mullins. We're lucky to be present tonight, one of our New York State champions tonight, and also after that, we will get into our music awards. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. And as you said, I'm going to call up Mr. Mullins, our athletic director, to speak on behalf of our New York State champion.
Thank you, Mr. Haas. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce Coach Ungaro, who will speak on behalf of our state champion, Sophia McInnes. Before I turn this over to Coach Ungaro, I'd be remiss if I didn't share a few words about him, as a large component of Soph's successes can be directly attributed to Coach Ungaro's tutelage. For those who have had the privilege of running under Coach Ungaro, you know that his impact extends far beyond the track. Yes, he teaches strategy, skill, and discipline, but more importantly, he instills values, hard work, perseverance, and collaboration. Whether it's on the track, in the gym, or even in the classroom, Coach Ungaro is someone who leads by example, pushing every student to not only be a better athlete, but more importantly, be a better person. The dedication and passion he brings to his teams are unmatched, and the lessons learned under his guidance will last a lifetime. Without further ado, Coach Ungaro.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mullins. Thank you to everybody here tonight, the board, for inviting Soph to be recognized as a New York State Federation and state champion. I believe Soph has been recognized by the board in the past for her numerous championships, so I'll try to keep this brief. It's hard to put into words how fast Soph is, so I'll try in as short a manner as possible. When Soph broke the Suffolk County record in the 600-meter race earlier this season, she was running just over 4-minute mile pace for just shy of half a mile. When she broke the Suffolk County record in the half mile, she was running a little over 14 miles per hour for over 2 minutes straight. When she broke the Long Island record in the 1,000-meter race, the state championship that she won, the only kids in the country to ever run faster than her were NCAA champions and Olympians. Her least favorite race is the 3,000-meter run, which is just shy of 2 miles. She has the second fastest time in Suffolk County history in this event. To enlist with the Marines, a female recruit must run 1.5 miles in 15 minutes. Soph ran just under 2 miles in 9 minutes and 37 seconds, which at the same pace means she would finish the 1.5 miles in 7 minutes and 41 seconds. I wrote this speech this morning, and today in practice, Soph happened to run 1.5 miles in 7 minutes and 48 seconds, which is just shy of her race pace, which shows you how hard she's working in practice. Ms. Hendershot was part of that workout as well. She can attest. I'm very impressed with both of them for being here. I'm surprised they can walk. Basically, the last thing that I'll say about Soph is the times sometimes are hard to translate into her hard work. The thing that you need to understand about Soph is her dedication to always working her hardest, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's on the track, whether it's getting sleep she puts 100% effort into everything that'll help her succeed. I want to thank a few people, since this is, I think, the first time I'm speaking in at least a year or so. Her parents are tremendously supportive and give her every opportunity available and the confidence to take risks with those opportunities. Mr. Mullins is hands down the most knowledgeable and supportive AD in New York State, and his role in Soph's career here at Bayport Blue Point cannot be overstated. Soph has a tremendous group of teammates these last 4 years that have been nothing short of family for her as she climbed the ladder to reach her goals. I also want to thank the Board of Education, not just for the recognition for Soph and her accomplishments, but for allowing her cross-country and track and field program to take all the necessary steps to allow this kind of success. That's 9 state championships with 1 more season left for Soph. Congratulations, Soph.
Again, congratulations, but at this time, we'll turn it over to Mr. Haas for our music awards.
Thank you again, Mr. Miller. Congratulations, Sophia. That just listening to those times was astonishing. At this time, I would like to call up some of our building principals who are here, are going to help hand out the certificates, Mr. Walcott, Ms. Beard, and Ms. Kelly. So we now come full circle in our district, honoring a tremendous athlete to now showing how the program also goes into the tremendous accolades and success of our students within music. So we're going to be honoring students from all grade levels this evening and who have accomplished things from the county level all the way up to the state level. So I want to congratulate every student here, just like Mr. Ongaro did. Congratulate the parents and thank the parents for their dedication to helping their children continue to improve upon this craft. And also congratulate Mr. Weber and the entire music department for all the hard work that they put in for the students. So when your name is called and you come up for your certificate, I'm going to ask that you then go up onto the stage so we can do one group photo at the end. All right, we have our first is Joseph Abadi, Long Island String Festival in Skamia Division 2. Cecilia Brescia, Skamia Division 1. Janie Brescia, Skamia Division 1. Mason Ash, Skamia Division 2. Bailey Becker, Skamia Division 1. Evangeline Bolger, Skamia Division 1. Aria Branch, Skamia Division 1. Haley Brand, Skamia Division 3. Fiona Brinkman, Long Island String Festival and Skamia Division 1. Paige Carney, Skamia Division 1. Ciro Corretto, Skamia Jazz Festival. Madeline Kaska, Skamia Division 2. Juliana Cirillo, Skamia Division 2. Isabella Del Vicario, Skamia Division 1. Jane Einhart, Long Island String Festival and Skamia Division 1. Anna Foreman, Long Island String Festival, Niskayne. Lily Foreman, Niskayne, NYSSMA All-State. Jackson Gonzalez, Skamia Division 1. Joshua Green, Skamia Division 2. Landon Hedstrom, Skamia Division 3. Jameson Hogan, Skamia Division 2. Sophie Hughes, Skamia Division 1. Skylar Johnson, Skamia Division 2. Carson Kane, Skamia Division 2. Tessa Kleeman, Skamia Division 1. Ray LaBarca, Long Island String Festival, Skamia Division 2. Catherine Lomer, Skamia Division 2. Naira Lopez Diaz, Skamia Division 1. Timothy Lynch, Skamia Jazz Festival. Sophia Majorano, NYSSMA All-State and Niskayne. Ella Manley, Skamia Division 1. Calais Maxim, Long Island String Festival. Leanna McCormick, Niskayne, NYSSMA All-State. Robert McGinnis, Skamia Division 1. Matilda Merced, Long Island String Festival, Skamia Division 1. Lilith Orofino, Skamia Division 2. Krish Patel, Skamia Division 2. Juliet Raymond, Skamia Division 1. Atticus Rudkin, Skamia Jazz Festival. Kaylee Russert, Skamia Division 1. Francesco Silvestrini, Niskayne. Clara Swinkin, Long Island String Festival, Skamia Division 1. Eric Swinkin, Long Island String Festival, Skamia Division 3, Skamia Jazz Festival. Alexander Turk, Skamia Division 1. Alexander Balder, Niskayne and NYSSMA All-State. Anthony Balder, Niskayne. Kevin Zane, Skamia Division 1. Jackson's Wake, Skamia Division 3. And Sydney's Wake, Skamia Division 1. Congratulations. I'd now like to invite our Board of Education members up to the stage for a picture with the students. Congratulations to all our musicians.
Congrats again, guys. But at this time, we were going to start our budget presentation. We will definitely understand if you'd like to go home.
Congratulations.
It's going to be a quick one, though. Don't worry. Well, Dr. Harney, thank you so much. Dr. Harney is going to do our 6th quick budget presentation, so we do appreciate that, Dr. Harney.
I'll do my best. I want to share a good amount of information with everybody tonight. So first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Frontario for all his work on putting the budget together. This is budget workshop number 6. We really have 2 meetings after this. We have April 8th and then April 22nd, which on that day the budget would have to be adopted at that point. So just so you get an idea where we are, really tonight's purpose is to provide an update on the development of the 25-26 proposed budget. This is the agenda for you. I'm not going to read it to you, but I'll take you through each of the slides. A little bit of it in the beginning will be a little bit of a repeat if you've seen that before, so I apologize for that, but I think it is important. As I alluded to when I was doing my superintendent update, was the discussion around foundation aid. So I think that is important because I think there's a lot of misnomers out there, and I think it's important as it pertains to especially Bayport Blue Point. So everything that we're doing, as we continuously talk about it, obviously we developed our strategic plan last year, which allowed us to plan going forth. And that is really behind a lot of the things that we are continuously doing here in Bayport Blue Point. This is the schedule that Mr. Frontera has kind of put out for you each time. And as I said, as I mentioned, you have the couple of dates that I had mentioned, April 8th and the 22nd. And then you have the budget hearing that has to be done on May 6th. So that is, and that really doesn't have, the budget will have already been adopted at that time. It's just really for us to share additional information with you. By law, we need to do that. So I want to take you through, I guess I'm going to kind of take you through a little bit of a story. And the story begins back in January, or really when we start the budget process, which is really almost starts as soon as the budget is adopted in one year, we start to look at the following year. So this is a slide that I did show once before, and I think this becomes very important. And the reason this becomes very important is it's because what you would have seen if you looked at Newsday in late January, all right? And it becomes important because if you look at that bottom right number, you'll see where they talk about a budget aid increase, right, as we looked at it. And you saw in the paper is 3.9%. And you continuously hear the governor of New York talk about is, hey, everybody receives at least 2%. So when you look at that, you're like, oh, 3.9%, that's pretty good. That is very misleading, and I had talked about, and I'll go into that a little bit more. A lot of that had to do with, if you remember, we talked about pre-K money that they added into what they considered the addition. We talked about at one point they had us for $100,000 for 1 year, and then it went up another to $580,000, so it was a difference of $480,000, and that's where a lot of this increase was due to. We have since corrected that, but nothing has come out publicly yet. Also within that, it's important to know is Remember, pre-K money is federal money, or what do I want to say? It's not general fund, so you can't use it within your general fund. So for example, if you do not have pre-K, you cannot use it for anything. And as I mentioned, you heard me talk about for many years, is the pre-K allocation of $5,400 per student has been in place since the early 2000s. So that hasn't changed as well. Within the legislative budget, they are trying to raise that, but more to come on that, and we'll see if that happens. Inflation versus the tax rate. This becomes very important because as we start to think about our budget, if you look at over the box years that are here, and again, you can kind of see a little bit, if you're looking at that, basically what we're allowed to account for and then what the inflation rate is, it's a difference or a gap here of 11%. That's just really over the last 4 or 5 years. That becomes important. It becomes very difficult for any district to keep up. And if you remember, they continuously talk about the more aid that districts are receiving. As a district that was on hold harmless, is we received the minimum, if that, which has been the 2%. So that becomes very important as the things that we look at. If you're looking at the last 2 years, there was a story last year, or you heard about this last year, where they were talking about, hey, districts were going to lose Save Harmless or Hold Harmless. It's called both. And you saw many districts there, and that's kind of what's on the top up there. Were 15 districts in Nassau had no increase, and 35 districts in Suffolk had no increase. Bayport Blue Point was one of those districts. All right? So therefore, almost 50% of the districts on Long Island did not receive an increase. And if you're taking a look at that, this year, they're saying that districts were going to receive the minimum of 2%. But again, if you take a look at the inflation rate, which is over 7%, and then what we're allowed to, what we received in terms of an increase, just doing the simple math, 7%. So in the last 2 years, so last year we didn't get any increase at all. This year we got 2%, so that's already another gap just in the last 2 years of 5%. So that is something not just Bayport Blue Point is dealing with on a regular basis, but it's all districts within New York. But this is kind of part of our story, so it becomes very important. Then within the budget, Then within the budget, there's what they call other categorical aids. And these are basically aids that, to keep in your mind, to receive this aid for whether it be building aid or transportation or BOCES, it's really based on what you spend. So they're basically saying, oh, you get an increase or a decrease, but it's really based on what you're spending the year prior and how you're receiving your aid. So for us, which is not, when you're looking at it as a total, we had a decrease in 21,000, which means within all of our aid categories or ratios that maybe we had spent a little bit less. But again, you count on that aid. So just, I want you to keep that number in the back of your mind. And then you have other miscellaneous aids, whether it be you see for software or what they call high expense aids, which have not changed in years. Again, we had a small decrease in there as well. So when you put it all together, and that's why this just becomes very important for us, when you put it all together, all right, so here you have where you had the categorical aid, which was down 21,000 thereabouts. You have the other miscellaneous down about 2,800, all right? And then, as I said, the pre-K, as we talked about, and then you have this 233. This would have been the number, the 233,000 for foundation aid, if we would have received the 2%, which is being allocated to us. But when you look at the total again, it becomes important to know that our really total aid increase for the 25-26 school year is 208,000, which is actually below the 2%. So it's just one of those things where if you take a look at this from the beginning of the story that I started with, where it's saying it's 3.9, it's actually below the 2%. So this is something our district continuously kind of has to take a look at. We really have two forms of revenue that we can count on that Mr. Frontario has always talked about. It's really the revenue that we receive from our tax base, which is mainly community-based. We don't have much in terms of businesses here in terms of that add to our tax base. And then the second piece is foundation aid. And if foundation aid is static and inflation rate continues to grow as it does, you're going to continue to see this type of gap that we're continuously trying to battle or kind of pay attention to. Then there's another piece to the story, is if you're looking at this, we receive certain federal money, as every district does. And so what I started to do, or what we started to do, is put together a comparison of 2014 to 2024. So when you're looking at those two, you're going to see, if you get to the total numbers of the title monies, and 611, 619, just so you know, those are special ed grants. Title I, and the other title monies, some of them are to our economic numbers, or some of it is attached to our ELL numbers as you look. Again, in 2014, 15, there was no pre-K money. So for this, I took out the pre-K money, because again, pre-K money you only get if you're using it. So again, if you're looking at that 10-year difference, it's about a $200,000 again decrease. So you might say, well, over 10 years, $200,000, it's not a tremendous amount. But when you put it with everything else that I'm talking about here, it continuously to pinch the district a little bit more and more, and it's something that we're continuously paying attention to. So I'm going to have to do this one from here. So then what we wanted to do is, one of the things that came up, just so that you're aware, is we wanted to show you, start to do a 10-year comparison. So we just really wanted to look at our major categories as we were looking at this. So we wanted to take a look at the areas again. We kind of compared 2014 to 2024, and we started with, these are all of our major categories. So as you look at this, for example, so what we tried to put together, so you look at the top one, special education was about 3.9 million in 2014. Right now it's about 4.6, and then the percentages are pretty much same. And the percentages is the part of it takes up within the overall budget, all right? And then you take a look at BOCES, all salaries, benefits. You will see majority of the things that in here, the ratio is pretty similar throughout the 10 years. The things that I would point to a little bit, we just put physical security in here. We've actually probably done more in terms of adding personnel more than anything. Because if you remember, most of the security was done in the bond, so we just had to put it in here just so that people were aware of it. Things that have really gone up, if you look at transportation, I do want to give you one caveat. Reason I compared it, you'll see there to 2019, because early on within our contracts, it was all done through BOCES. And really when the change came, we actually had lowered it for a number of years because we started to we went through different contracts. So really, before we started to add the transportation, that's where you see that numbers of where it went from 1.4 to 2.1, thereabouts, in terms of transportation. So that is something that has changed over the years that we had put forward. Remember, we had done that safety study a number of years, so that's a big one. And obviously, you'll see in terms of, as you're looking at this, our debt service is something that we talk about through the bonds. Also, we have the library has some through money that I will say here that we have to account for. It doesn't really have an impact on our overall budget, but we do have to account for it as well. So you'll see that, which we have known between the EPC or the bond that was done 8 or 9 years ago. So you'll see those are the areas that probably from a percentage standpoint, even though it's minimal, have grown the most. So I just wanted to take a look at this. The other part you'll see is in buildings and maintenance and repairs. If you remember, we added a transfer to capital. Early on, if you're thinking about 2014, the tax cap came into place 2 or 3 years prior to that. And at that time, when you were starting to look at things, you always tried to stay away from programs. So it was usually areas and maintenance areas that was areas that was cut the most. So that's why you see a larger increase, just because over time, buildings deteriorate. You have to continuously try to maintain them. So that is an area that has grown within our own budget. So you see that as well. So we just wanted you to see what it would look like over the last 10 years. And really, as you're looking at the budget, a lot of the proportions are very similar to what they were back then, where people say, oh, this cost is getting out of hand. It's not actually the case here. Then what we started to do is we started to take a look at, as we're going forward, is as we're kind of setting up and taking us into tonight, each year I do a presentation and I talk about staffing. So I wanted to talk about the last 10 years in staffing as well, all right? Our enrollment, which has been no secret, I have done numerous presentations on enrollment over here in regards to decline in our enrollment or reduction in our enrollment. We have majority of our classes now are entering the high school, so we probably have 2 or 3 more years, probably 2 more years where we'll still have a reduction in enrollment, and then we believe it will kind of flatline as we're looking at it. Though our kindergarten numbers are looking pretty good this year so far. So what this slide does for you, it again takes a look at 2014-15. If you're looking at, and if you really want to just go to it, take a look at the bottom numbers. So you will see then since 2014-15, we have had a reduction in staff. If you're looking at what we're projecting for 2025-26, of about 12 staff members. I want you to remember that because within this, part of what I want to show you is we've actually been able to add a lot as we've been taking a look at and reducing things as well. So that becomes very important here. Majority of the reductions in terms of staff, you heard me talk about it last year and this year, have really happened between last year and this year. I want to say between 7 or 8 are between last year and this year and what we're predicting going forward, especially as the enrollment is starting to hit the secondary piece. The next slide here is just things that we wanted to start to share. So even as we're looking at it, and I think it's important for people to understand what we've been able to do through the support of the Board of Education, the great work of our administration, our teachers, and all of our staff within the building, we continue to grow. Though I've been talking to you about for the last 10, 15 minutes about the struggles that we've had and things that we're continuing to watch economically, we've been able to do a lot of good things here in Bayport Blue Point. And I think it's worth taking just a few minutes just to point out a few things. Is one of the things, now I don't want to confuse people when they see advanced regents diploma rate, they don't think that that means only 70%, 76% of our kids are graduating. The graduation rate is around 98, 99, 100%. This is the students who can earn what the highest diploma that is available, and it's one of the highest in New York. So I think that becomes very important. And just what we've been able to do in terms of programs. So AP courses have grown. AP tests have written, that we're writing is up 150. Dual enrollment classes, and what that means, it's enrollment classes. Dual enrollment means classes that students can take here and then also earn college credit through a local university or college. Registration numbers are up. High school co-teaching courses we've expanded. If you remember, that was a big thing we had talked about last year. We've gone from 6 to 11 in there. Our BOCES enrollment, which we've more than doubled over the last couple of years. And that is for students who are pursuing some type of trade, so that becomes important. CL by literacy, which is somewhat new in the New York area, is we've had, obviously back then it wasn't available, so we had no students, so now we have a number of students, 59. Clubs. If you're looking at this, the simple math, in 2014 we had 33 clubs, we have now 59 clubs, all right? So that is an area. Middle school earth science enrollment, algebra enrollment, and then just other things in terms of high school computer and science technology courses. We've added 5. We've added unified sports teams over the last couple of years, 2 of them. Universal pre-K, which we did not have back then. We have 118 seats available, and then middle school and high school robotics. And there are a number of other things as well, but we just wanted to point out a few items as we're looking at our budget and really thank the community for all their support. Because of the support, we're able to continuously grow, even though we're also being very conscientious of the financial world that we are in. And then the next slide, I'm not going to walk you through this because this is a little bit even more. This is in that same time period, addition to things. So for example, we did the K-12 Chromebook initiative, which is something that's in the budget right now because we have to start replenishing, right? We've added additional security. We've added new science programs, math programs. And again, I'm not going to walk you through every single one of these, but if you look at this, in the same time period that I'm talking about, besides what was on the previous page, these are all the other items during that same time where we have less staff and we have been reducing and we've been under a tight crunch. We've continued to grow as a district and really what makes Bayport Blue Point as special as it is. So I just thought that is important to share with you as we kind of take a look at this and we go into this new budget cycle. Because as we look at this, these are the things that make us what we are. And when people ask us to take a look at the budget, these are the things that we're trying to stay away from the most when it comes to when you're trying to create as tight as budget as possible. So that is something that we are doing. All right. The next is really going to take us into this year a little bit, because people always ask as we're going into staffing. So if you look at staffing from last year from this year, I apologize, to what we're looking at for next year. So it looks like we're going to be reducing again by about 1.4%. 1.4 personnel. All right, and really to kind of look you through it is here at the elementary level, right, here at the elementary, it's pretty static. The two differences are, I'll walk you through in a second, but it's a difference of 0.1, which is really very, very small. So I'll talk about that in a second. And then at the secondary, this is the elementary. Really where you're seeing the difference is we are looking to, at Academy Street, go for in third grade, where it was 3 sections in second grade to 2, really be a class size now of about 21, where right now they're about 14 as you're looking at them. So that is something we're looking to do. Reason we're looking there is we do need an additional section in 6th grade. So that's why I said the elementary, which really is K6, it's really static as you're looking at this. The 2 areas that I do want to point out that we are watching is, one, the kindergarten numbers at Sylvan specifically. Right now we have it as 2 sections, but that may be 3. And that is, registration is this week, so we will know that. But as I'm talking about the budget, these are things that we have planned, we were watching, so it won't be a surprise to us. And the other area we are watching, you'll see it right down here in Sylvan as well, is grade 3, where we're playing around. Is it 2 sections or 3 sections? And those are kind of the numbers to a 24 and 16. So we're watching that. So even with those, even if the numbers are the higher number or the higher section, we still are talking about that reduction of 1.4. So that is still in place. So as we're talking. And then here is the secondary, as I said. So really where the secondary, the reduction is, we have a number of retirements this year. And over the years, one of our goals has been to, as we look at it, is if we're able to reduce, we do it through attrition. That's been a goal of ours. And we're looking to do that again this year. So in the math area, we have a retirement that we are not looking to replace at this time. That is our recommendation. We also have a couple of retirements in foreign language. So that's where the other 0.4 comes from. So it was like a 2.4, which will now become a 2.0. And that goes to that 1.4 reduction that I had talked to you about early on in this presentation. So that's kind of what we're looking in terms of staffing or changes in staffing for next year. But even as I said, reducing the math, class sections are still, and we still have actually a little bit room there, are still in the low 20s at the secondary level, which we are extremely comfortable with for our students here at Bayport Blue Point. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Frontiero. He'll take you through some of the monetary piece, and then obviously I'll take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Harney. Yeah, got it. Okay. The next 6 slides reflect 3 budgetary scenarios with corresponding revenue plans. This shouldn't come as any surprise because we've always, in the past few years that I've been here, we've come up with a number of acceptable levels to where we wanted the budget to actually increase to 2. That and the tax levy. So we've always kind of looked at various scenarios as an idea as to where we wanted to fall out. All 3 of these scenarios preserve all staff, all programs, everything we know and love about the budget, the district is in this, either of the 3, all of the 3 scenarios for sure. And they've been developed, that you can be sure for definitely, and they've been developed in a more conservative approach on the expense side. So over the past 3 years, we've spent 98.6% of our budget. This has been with a little bit more conservatively, so we should have less expended at the end of the year, which should also help with the fund balance estimate, perhaps, where it would stop decreasing or go to a 0 or even possibly increase, but assuming there's no pandemics or anything possible that could possibly happen that we can't predict now. Over the last 15 years, our budget-to-budget increases have either begun with a 1, a 2, or a 3. The 4.72 budget that's been presented over the past couple of months and that I tortured you, taking you through all those functions and so forth, left room for reductions, and our historical approach has been to adopt a budget that compromises and that doesn't compromise any services or programs. Our average budget to budget over the 15 years is about 2.39, which is very impressive when you think about the fact that we've always supported our students in every respect. With respect to the revenue scenarios, we're assuming that we're going to levy at the tax cap allowable limit. And that's critical because we must be able to, in order to return to a fund balance where we might be seeing it go up, we're going to have to definitely take the levy at the allowable maximum. In addition, it assumes, again, all three versions assume that we're going to also get about $208,000 in state aid. And lastly, basically the balancing number has been all other revenues for the most part, and the higher the budget-to-budget increase is, 472 versus 3.95 versus 3.80, the less we depend on those numbers, and the chances are that it'll be more spot on in terms of what will actually come in on the example. So looking at scenario 1 is on the expense side. It's 4.72% budget to budget within the various functional areas. Looking at the corresponding revenue, you can see that where our tax levy is at the allowable tax levy limit of 3.45%, giving us an additional new money of $2,139,312. State aid is again at what we're showing at about $208,000. All other revenues, as you can see, is more of a stretch, without a doubt, in a 4.72 budget to budget scenario. And there, of course, we need to would actually be the number to, because we have to be in balance, and that would be the number to basically do it, because we're not appropriating fund balance a little bit more, and the transfer reserves is what is currently budgeted at the moment. So that's the 4.72. The 3.95, as you can see, again, the expense side, we've been able to make some reductions. They're also included in this presentation, the last couple of slides. 3.95, again, we were able to cut through and be able to trim. And this is the corresponding number for revenue. As you can see, all of the revenues now is half of what the increase that I was showing for the 4.72. And again, all the other numbers bounce. Again, the tax levy is the same as at the cap, and the state aid at 208. 3.80 version, again, not everything we know and love about the district is in that 3.80 version, except that we've been able to make some additional cuts to bring it down to a level where it starts with a 3 or a 2, as I said. On the revenue side, as you can see, again, state aid and the tax levy is at the levels that we anticipate them to be. And the all other revenues numbers now down to a $413,665 increase, which when I look at the 2 years or analyze the past all other revenues number, we've had a budgeted $2.2 million and came in at $3 million. And then another year we budgeted about $2.7 million, it came in at 3.9. So when I averaged them out and just figured that an increase of $413,000 is not really off the mark in that regard. And obviously, we do need appropriated fund balance and transfer reserves in order to ultimately balance the program out. These are the initial cuts to get from 4.72 to 3.95. Again, going through various areas that don't necessarily impact on any staff member or any programs or services, health insurance, transfer to capital, Social Security, Medicare reimbursement, teachers' retirement, et cetera, brought us down an additional, we took out at $663,897, which took us from 4.72 to 3.95. And then to get to from 3.95 to 3.8, again, it's just really just trimming around the edges of various codes that we went through for the most part. And so we went from 3.95. So all told, to get from a 4.72 budget to budget increase to 3.80, we reduced the scenario by $788,897. Again, this was a security slide that we wanted to touch on. So Dr. Harney, did you want to?
Yeah, so, sorry about that. So at the last meeting, Ms. Pignataro had asked us to cost out some of the items that were spoken about in the security presentation. So these are those numbers. These are not in the budget at all right now. That's why we did it as a separate slide, so it's out here for you. So the ID cards and kiosks for really that's the middle school, high school is about 24. The audible exterior door alarms, another 20. And as I said, we had talked about the strobe lights, which is actually currently in this existing budget. So that's what this is, okay? And then from there,
That's pretty much.
this really just talks about what's going to be in place for our next meeting. And we'll take questions, obviously, for this one. If there is any state update, we'll let you know. We have not heard anything. We have to make a decision really not on the recommendation is obviously to go to the tax levy at 3.45. I have spoken about in the past that there were a number of years where we had gone below the tax levy, which again, I would not recommend that because too many years of that will continue to make it more difficult for us to try to balance a budget and obviously stay away from our reserves, which we have dipped into a little bit over the last couple of years. So we would recommend that. It's really more about the budget to budget that we really need to make a decision on. And then really when do we plan on adopting? Do we look to do this on April 8th or do we wait to the April 22nd? It doesn't hurt to wait to the 22nd, which is the mandated date. Maybe we'll get something on state aid. Maybe we'll know something more. So there is no harm in that. We have a meeting scheduled, but if the board so chooses to do something on the 8th, we can do that as well. So that's kind of really where we are right now as we open it up for discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Harney. Thank you, Mr. Frontiero. Any questions from trustees? Ms. Pignataro?
First, just wanted to thank you for including the slide about the security enhancements. I do think they're really minimal expenses as compared to many things that are in the budget that could have a broad security impact, so it's something I would like us to consider. I know, as you've both mentioned, it is a very difficult balancing act, but I do think that security enhancements are something we should continue to have discussions about. With that said, I did have just a quick question about staffing. The TOSA at the secondary level, you have a 1.4. Is that a dean?
Let me go to that page for you. Hold on a second.
Do you know slide number?
Slide 21. The TOSA at the high school, the secondary is, I'm actually going to need Mr. Haas to help me out with that one.
So the 1.4 TOSA at the secondary level, 0.4 of it is our technology integrated specialist who also serves as the department chair for special education. And then the other 1.0 is Eric Geiberger, the Bayport Blue Point Teachers Association president, who serves, I don't know his official title, that he serves within the state retirement system as well.
Thank you so much. I want to kind of make sure that I understand all the little bits and pieces. I also just wanted to ask about BOCES. Of course, as a school counselor myself, I'm thrilled at the expansion of the BOCES offerings, but I did want to ask, when we're constructing the budget, how many seats do we plan for?
So where we start is we start with the 3-year average that is given to us by BOCES, but that doesn't allow that. We continue to look at wherever the interests of the students are. So, but we will be this year, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Haas, we will be staying with and I know the number's 43 this year, but we will be staying within our limits, and that is what we're budgeted for right now.
Great, thank you. And I have one last question, just for especially, I think, folks at home that maybe aren't seeing everything as much as we are, of course. What's our average graduating class size right now?
So this year coming up, it's going to be 160 something, okay? And each year it's been dropping, obviously, as we go forward. The smallest class we have right now is currently our 10th grade, right, Ms. Haas? 10th grade or 9th grade? Currently our 9th grade. It's our 9th grade to be 10th grade, sorry. So we have about 2 more years of where our enrollment is declining. Ms. Hendershot says it's 161, so.
We're gonna check that. We're gonna check that though.
It's
Currently,
All right.
You always trust a student to know that information. So if we're around 160 and you said the ninth grade is the low point and then we plateau after that?
What do you mean when you say plateau?
Okay, sorry, I guess the number doesn't continue to decrease after the ninth grade or it,
No, so, I mean, the ninth grade is an outlier, but there is another outlier that's in the elementary as well, currently right now. But in general, majority of our class sizes fluctuate between 130, 140, 145, thereabouts.
Thank you, Ms. Pignataro. Any other trustee questions? Mr. Johnson?
So not so much about the presentation. I think we have a good plan for next year. But I've been seeing the trend over the last few years that it's getting tighter and tighter. And I think that's conducive to what's going on in the local or the broader economy. The cost of doing business is going up much more exponentially than the ability to raise taxes or what we're seeing in aid. So I think going forward, especially into the future years, we really got to start thinking about not so much about our expenditure side, because our revenue is not going to grow with what we need to, especially with the tax cap. And I'll be honest with you, the tax cap's fine. I mean, you can't property taxes get into the $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 range for houses that are under 2,000 square feet. But we also want to keep one of the competitive academic institutions like we've kind of have here and what we continue with. So I really think we got to start talking about how efficient we are with our expenditures. You know, you're talking about a graduating class that's of 160. If I do the math quick, that tells me that our elementary schools as a whole, the three of them, are educating less than 1,000 students. So we got to figure out, and I know nobody wants to hear this, but we got to figure out how we're funneling our students through those schools and whether that's the most effective way. And it's the way that we can keep our programs, the AP programs, the BOCE programs, competitive. When we talk about new expenditures, I said this about a year ago, we really got to start thinking zero growth. I think we built it. I think we have a great program. If we want to add a club or if we want to add some additional things, that's fine, but it's got to come at the cost of something that's not being utilized as effectively. I've been on the board for nearly a decade, and I've heard people come up and say, I would love it if you did this field or that field, or if you built this, and I support a lot of that. But then there also will be coming up in other meetings saying, why are you raising taxes that much? Why are you doing that? We can't have it all. So we really got to start thinking about, we've went several years without maximizing the tax cap, and I think that was a good thing, but it also comes at a risk. You're eliminating revenue for infinity years. When you take a percentage out of your tax cap or your tax levy, that's 1% that you don't see compounding upon itself every year for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years that you lose in revenue. I do want to keep it where it's manageable, but we can't leave that money on the table, and we also got to look at the expenditure side. How can we have one of these wonderful programs, but eliminate maybe some of the more inefficient and effective ways? I know you've pitched a lot of great ideas. I'd like to continue to look at that, enrollment study or something, see how we're going to look in the future. Because we got to keep on readdressing this and look at this, because it's going to, unless something changes with the way New York State gives us aid, which I do see the change, but I don't think it's going to happen to benefit as much as to hurt us potentially. So we really got to start being proactively thinking about how we can maintain this excellence that we've created in the Blue Ribbon School District. So I think wonderful job. I want to thank everyone for the hard work, and I think we're really looking like we're going to have a good budget year next year, but I'm thinking about the future years that we got to start getting on top of now.
Just a quick comment to that is, and I appreciate that and thank you, is, as I said, probably over the, probably 13 years, whether I was the assistant superintendent or currently the superintendent, I probably have done 3 or 4 enrollment studies, and done 3 or 4 probably presentations to the Board of Ed and the community regarding different items, right? I don't disagree that it is probably time to do just another, at least study. I said, because of the past ones we've done, they've been pretty accurate, so I've been very pleased with them. And then I think that becomes the basis of probably whatever the next discussion is, because I do believe you are right, Mr. Johnson, in saying that I do not believe we're going to get all of a sudden a windfall of revenue from somewhere. We can be creative, and we can obviously even look for maybe some one-time revenues, but that's not necessarily a long-time fix. And we can definitely come to you with some different ideas. But I do think if you're thinking about long-term, which we've talked about in the past, really you're taking a look at as, again, as we try to do things through attrition and stuff, is taking a look at, do you take a look at class sizes or the way we're configured or those type of things. But I think first we start with another study. I think it's worth it. It'll give you 5 years out. And it's something that maybe we actually, in addition to us taking a look at the security, look to see if we can get that in the budget as well for next year as well. If I remember right, it was about $15,000, but gave us a ton of information. So that may be worthwhile as well. So if the board would like me to take a look, or me and Mr. Frontera to take a look at the security things that was put forward, and then also that idea of maybe taking a look again at a study, just to give us more information, if anything, then we can do that, and we'll kind of pitch that back to you on April 8th is, that's $60,000, then what are we trading for that? We'd have to come forward, so we can do that for you, if the board would like us to do that. So Mike, if you want to.
Anybody have any concerns with Dr. Harney coming back with a few prices? Yep.
I think it's a good idea to do that, and I think with that said, kind of to your earlier point, Dr. Harney, it's probably best for us then to plan ahead for April 22nd for a budget adoption, because I believe you asked us that question earlier, and we all hadn't answered yet. So I do think April 22nd makes the most sense.
So do I, and like I said, it's no harm to do that. And again, we might have more information at that time. In general, we're pretty good with the budgets we are presenting. We're coming. Now it's just looking into these other things. Mr. Frontera and I have said, and I really do think we should look at the budget. The budget, if you're asking us, at the 3.8, I think we should look at that. We're comfortable with that coming forward, so it does not change our tax levy in any essence, which is, that's where I would have more of a question mark if that was a discussion here.
So just so we're clear, we're going to look into adding the security, look into an enrollment study, and then you're going to come back with some areas that you're going to reduce in order to get that in? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so I'll bring some choices, and if it's real simple, then it'll be very quick. If not, we'll have a discussion about it, and we'll make decisions based on that, if that works for everybody.
One other thing I would add, if you wouldn't mind talking to Mr. Borchfield in regards to what would it cost to clean up the area, you already know where I'm going, clean up the area behind the baseball field, the weeds in-house, and also put down some cement back behind the backstop. And that could be something easily done through the transfer to capital. If you could just get a small price.
I can do that.
Any other questions about the budget? Cement. Yeah. Any community members? Any questions on the budget? Dr. Harney, Mr. Frontario, thank you so much. We do appreciate it. Moving on to the consent agenda, and any items the board would like to remove from the consent agenda and place on the regular agenda. Not hearing any, can I have a motion to approve consent agenda items G through K? Ms. Conley, second by Ms. Pignataro. Any discussion? Just want to say within this consent agenda tonight, you will see we're hiring a new assistant superintendent for finances and operations. So she's here with us tonight, so we can have a round of applause for Ms. Laughlin. We are so lucky for you to join the family. Thank you for joining the family. We appreciate it. We're looking forward to working with you. And Dr. Harney, thank you for everything, for making it happen.
Now, just a short thing on that is it was a tiresome process, and Ms. Laughlin had the opportunity to meet a number of our staff. So I'd like to thank her for all of her time and all of her effort, and we're looking forward to working with you. And then also Mr. Fronterio, which we will celebrate a little bit more and acknowledge later on in the year, but I also would like to thank him for the past 3 years as well for all of his work. He is a tremendous human being, and I cannot thank him enough, so.
We'll also thank your husband for spending an hour and 15 minutes with us tonight, when I'm sure it's the last place you want to be. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to the regular agenda, can I have a motion to gratefully accept a 100-hour donation from an anonymous person for the school lunch debt? Spignataro, I think that was Mr. Johnson. Any discussion? As always, we thank anyone who donates, and obviously this is a very nice gesture on behalf of helping out a student with a lunch account. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Can I have a motion to approve the Chief Inspector of Elections at $17 per hour? Ms. Conley, second by Ms. Spignataro. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Can I have a motion to review the second reading and adoption of policies 2100, school board legal status, 2160, board member, school district officers, and employee code of ethics, and 2300, Board of Education memberships? Ms. Conley, second. Ms. Pignataro, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Open it up to community members for any new or old business. Not hearing any, open it up to any trustees for any new business. Not hearing any, can I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Krug comes in again. Mr. Krug, second. Ms. Pignataro, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you guys so much for coming tonight. We truly appreciate it. So welcome to the family.